kick us off on the artificial inflammation?
Yeah, so I regularly watch Trogly. So it's funny because you know how you have your phone in your hands all the time, right?
Sure.
And so a lot of times, like if I'm taking a break from work or whatever, Trogly's shows are rather short and condensed, and I can usually watch one while I'm eating my cereal or, you know, brushing my teeth or whatever before bed. And so typically that's the time frame I'll do it. I'll brush my teeth and get ready for bed. I'm like a little kid when it comes to that stuff. So anyway, I was doing, you know, my regular evening thing, and I'm watching that he got his new Carina Explorer. Now, it's a replica of a '58 Carina Explorer. Like, that's cool. They only made 18 of them. So the price tag on them, and this is not the price tag like post buying one and then putting it on Reverb. This is the price tag. Day one price tag, $30,000. $30,000.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
So just to reference for everybody, when Fender did the #1 SRV, which is revered as being one of the most expensive custom shop instruments from a major manufacturer, that was a like honest replication of SRV's #1 down to the finest detail. And that guitar went for, I believe, $25,000 a piece. So, why are these 30?
Exactly. And to be honest, because the 58 Vs are so rare, it's not like, okay, with that's a great analogy and a great like thing to bring this to, because the SRV one had to be made very specifically. I got to put a scratch here. I got to put a cigarette burn there.
I got to get wood grain that matches the original or is close enough.
Right. All those little things. Where a Carina Explorer, it's like, okay, grab a piece of Carina. Oh, yeah, we got a shitload of that out the back. Yeah, here we go. Just take a couple of planks. And then, okay, we're going to age it. Okay. We've got a bunch of aged screws laying around. Just throw the aged screws in there. Yep, that's good enough. What was the finish on those things? Oh, it was a crappy finish? Okay. They don't even have, like, the Gibson, you know, fancy markers. They're just dots.
They're like the originals were.
Right.
And so what I wanted to point out, Jim, you're talking about this, just for our listeners, just so everybody knows. Like, Carina is not an easy wood to work with, but it's not... Manufacturers do it all the time. I mean, to give you an example, Reverend, almost all of their guitars are made out of Carina. Just put it out there.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It's not a hard wood to get. It's not like they had to source, like, for 18 guitars, they had to source a lot of Carina. I mean, yes, they made the Vs, they made 81 Vs, and they made 18 Explorers. And the reason is because there were 81 Vs made originally in that year and 18 Explorers that got made that year. That's why. So you got one of those numbers. Now, you take a guy. Now, I don't look. Other than the fact that I think his voice is a little funny, I don't have anything against Trogly, obviously. I mean, he seems like a nice guy. Obviously got more money and brains, because there's no freaking way I'm going to spend $30,000.
He's a collector. He's not a player.
He is a collector, though. Definitely not a player. But when I look at that, I think you've got this is a big guitar. I mean, an Explorer is a big guitar. I've always wanted one and never pulled the trigger for a very obvious reason. That it would take a whole wall to put up one Explorer. It would take up. I have a friend with one, and every time I pick it up,
they're big and they're heavy, and that's the one thing a lot of people don't realize. They do clock in at around 10 pounds because they're big.
Right.
So
I'm not crazy about the guitar as it is, but here's the thing though: it really wasn't that hard to do on Gibson's part.
Not at all.
This wasn't hard. They've got aged. Hey, because it's a Murphy Lab. So hey, go get some aged pickups. Oh, okay, we got some aged pickups. They got to be these pickups. But they were the kind of pickups that we're making for other aged guitars already. So it's not like they had to source the pickups for real special. It's not like they had to find a bunch of weird, maybe the tuners, because ABR1 bridges all over the place. Yeah, we got a bunch of those. Here's some aged ones. We got them in a box over here. Here we go. I mean, really, this thing was a Lego kit.
Yeah.
And now I got to admit, this is the other side of me that's kind of making fun of the situation on one side. Now I'm like, but they're supposed to come out with a USA model, and I'm like, maybe. So because but every time like I said, I look at Explorer, I go, nah. But the thing is that this is the thing that I'm talking about is that they made 18 of them. So now they made them super like rare, but it's like, yeah, but as soon as they come out with the USA ones, other than being Tom Murphy Lab aged, it's the same damn guitar. It's not even like they aged the wood. You know, it's not like I don't.
All right, so you want my gut take on this?
Sure.
This is a collector's guitar. This never had any purpose of getting into anybody's. These things probably play like shit. Because they were never intended to be in a player's hands. They were intended to go to some guy that's going to put in his vault. And they're worthless. Right. Like, honestly, like long term, because it's a collector's edition, these guitars are never going to go down in rarity. So they're going to be worth basically what you paid for them originally, maybe plus inflation. They're not going to go skyrocket. Yeah, I'm sure that some idiot's going to buy one for $50,000 or something on the used market. But the reality is, I mean, that's probably still more expensive than the originals are, because the originals are what, like they go for like 20 to 50, on average. So, and they don't trade it off. And of course, the first year they only made like you said, 18 and 81.
18. So the original year ones go from $500,000 to $1 million.
When did they? So the next year they didn't use Carina, right? Because I think only the first run was Carina. So that's part of the silly part, right? So like, I don't know if you know the whole story. I'm actually sort of familiar with this, because I'm a big fan of the Carina era stuff, just because I like the way they look, and I've read up a lot on them. And so the reason why these guitars are rare is because Gibson made a run of Carina, and here's the dumb part: they were out of mahogany. And they had to make this special run of stuff that they wanted to have, I think, for the NAMM show. So what they did was they bought African mahogany, which is Carina, and it was cheaper, so it saved them some money. And then they made these guitars. And what they admitted was, once they got finished making the run, they were like, "Holy crap! We're never making anything out of Carina again. This wood is really hard to work with." Because they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. They thought it was just going to be mahogany. And which is why there were not a whole lot of other Carina guitars until I think they did some stuff in the 90s. And you could get Carina from the custom shop and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they did some limited runs. They've done them before. And there's been some... And here's the thing. I hate to say it, but the Epiphone Carina guitar, because it's not...
They're fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Carina. It's not like. Here's the thing about the other thing about it is that for the Carina guitars, I hate to say this, but it's just Carina. I mean, it's not.
It's the way it looks. People like that golden blonde thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful guitar. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I honestly think that they're good looking, but I think it's because they're unique.
Right.
And so here's my I was gonna give you my gut take. I think doing this kind of a limited run with something I'm very skeptical on this one, because even though I think these and Explorers definitely are like a popular instrument, I really think that this is like charging some sort of super rare custom Les Paul thing prices for something they do in the Epiphone line already. I honestly don't see these guitars as having a player value. Now, as a collector's item, yeah, okay, it's a limited run. Of course, somebody's going to buy them and that kind of thing. But Gibson has done some stupid collector stuff before, like the Map guitar and the Reverse Flying V, which were total collector's babies. I just don't. I don't think this was a good idea. I think they should have just waited until the American line dropped. And quite honestly, I'm not sure that the American line is going to sell super well either. You're going to have a rush of people run out and buy them right away. And this is, by the way, this is a guitar that people have been asking for quite a while, but I think it's a very small market of people that's been asking for them. So I think it's Gibson almost being like, you wanted it, so here it is. And I think what they're going to find out real fast is they're going to get a rush of sales when they first come out, and then they're going to trickle.
The Explorer has never been right. The Explorer has never been a big seller or an expensive guitar, with the exception of it was 1976. I think they did the first reissue of because the Explorer dropped off almost immediately.
Yeah, they didn't sell very well.
Then in 76, I think it was 76, they reissued, and that's when Leonard Skinner got one. I think it was King?
Yeah.
And Leonard Skinner got one. And the guy from 38 Special got one made. It's a fake. And those kind of pushed them for a little while more, and then they disappeared again. They've never really been a guitar.
So what? Like the Edge had one. Yeah, he got it from Manny's or something. But I remember hearing somebody say that like it's contested whether the Edge is legit. That some people have said very likely that the guitar he got from Manny's or whatever in New York is a fake.
Right. And he got it. This is the thing that most people forget, because they always think, oh, he's a super popular musician. This must be a great guitar. And it's like, a lot of times, just like number one, the SRV Strat that we were talking about, it was cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Kurt Cobain thing again, right? Like, so he was playing Univox High Flyers, and he's really the only reason anybody plays Univox High Flyers today. So they're inexpensive guitars. They were really cheap until he started playing them, and then they've slowly climbed in price over the years. And this is no different than that kind of situation where they weren't really desirable when they came out. Now they're more desirable. But you know what? When I think Flying V's, I think mahogany. I don't think Carina. I think the Carina ones, yeah, they're cool. They exist. I know they're a thing. Yeah. But Carina is really for the Explorer, right? Like, that's the way I look at that, is like the Carina, because partially probably because it's so damn rare. Right. And of course the Edge had the Explorer, so but that's, it is what it is.
Even a standard Explorer right now costs around $1,200. I mean, it's just not an expensive guitar. And that's why it just shocked me to see these two guitars. And what's funny is you can buy the V's postmark or aftermarket, the V's that everybody bought to collect, for about a $5,000 markup. I mean, it's just honestly, not that much money.
The V is one of the few guitars in the Faded line that they did, but it's like really worth owning. And I'll tell you why. The Faded line gets kind of a bad rap for negative quality and stuff. But the V is kind of like the one guitar out of that line where you're not going to play it all the time anyway. So buy the Faded one and just not care about it. And they look cool, so.
Right.
All right. I think we've done this to death, but I do have one way to end this topic, and I want to ask, because we know the American one is going to show up eventually, what do you think an American Carina Explorer is going to cost? You give your estimate, and I'll give you mine, and then we'll see who's closest.
The American?
Yeah, what do you think the American was going to cost?
All right, so since the
Carina
standard is $1,200,
since
the standard is $1,200, and they're going to have an upcharge to it because it's going to be something special. I'm guessing it's going to come in between. All right, can we do the but not over thing? I'm thinking that it's going to be between 18 and 2. Is what I'm thinking.
Okay, I'm going to say it's going to be in the ballpark of 2,400 to 2,700.
Okay.
And let me give you my logic behind that. So now they have this custom run, right? So their marketing department's going to go, you can't sell the American one for that much if you just sold these for $10,000 a piece or $15,000 a piece. So I have a feeling that that's going to overinflate the prices of the USA one, which is going to help kill this line when it happens. Because if they intend to make this a regular product and not some special edition that they're only going to do for like a year. They're going to need sustained numbers, and the only way to do that is to lower the price. So if they could, like if the standard one's 1,100 or 1,200, if they could move the USA one for like 1,400, 1,500 in Carina, I think they'd sell a lot of them, and I think it might actually become a killer line for them. But because they're gonna make this a premium product, I think that shoot the moon on the price, and I think that's gonna make them a 1-year commodity. That's my gut take. So I'm gonna write down our estimates so we can refer back later.
Yeah, I'm sure you're probably closer to right, but I'm seriously thinking 18-2.
I hope I'm not right. I hope I'm not right. To be honest with you, I think I'd like to see Gibson have a win for this, but because this is something people have been asking for a number of years. But I really think that we're gonna see something really stupid happen, and they're gonna price these out of the realm of affordability. Anyway, so that's a 34 is what we end at. All right, cool. So that is artificial inflammation, which is as we have stated, has to do with the fact that they artificially inflated the price of these guitars coming out of the custom shop by an insane amount of money by making a limited run and making them an obvious collector's item.
Yeah, I think the problem, and most of the people look at these guitars as guitars, and we don't see them as collector's items. So it's the same as thinking to yourself, well, why would anybody spend a ton of money on any other collector's item? It's because it's rare and they want it.
As a brief aside, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to. I actually have a little bit of thought on this. So I think you and I sort of look at the custom shop like a player would, which is the custom shop is for making that special instrument for a player to go on stage with. But obviously, if you look at the prices, they're not for players. They're for the guy that wants to put it in a vault somewhere. I honestly, like, even Fender's approach to custom shop, which starts at like roughly 3,000, 3,500, right? Like, that's player level, but it's really high end player level. Once you get to like 4,000 or 5,000, most average guys can't afford that and take it on stage. That's just not a realistic proposition. Now, I do know people that gig that kind of stuff, and it's really funny because they actually like work for Guitar Center. That's how they're getting that stuff.
Well, okay, so my co-guitar player in my band, he has both of the guitars that we play on stage, or he plays on stage, are custom shop guitars. One his dad bought him in 2005 as a gift for... But
his dad was a touring professional. So the average musician is not that.
His dad was one of the top Southern rock guys.
That's what I'm saying. So like that's like a whole different... That's like the guy that works at the music store and gets the discount and then acts like this is what everybody does.
Well, then but then the other one he bought was post that he bought it himself, and it's also a custom shop. It's one of the the R7 things that been around a while. But he plays it and he puts it through the paces and he sets an
I have heard tales of people buying Wood Library PRSs and playing them in bar bands. I think that's absolutely hysterical. If you're going to drop $10,000 on a guitar, you damn well better have roadies. Like that's, you should be at that level of player. I could tell you, the guy I saw Friday night, he had two pretty basic, guitars and just two. And there's more to that story than that, but like they were off the shelf. And he's a nationally known act. I mean, so I mean, it's just to each their own, right? Like some people like that stuff and some people don't need it. And I kind of think that the focus of those products, the custom shop level, is really not to serve people who are players. It's to serve people who have big bank accounts. And I know that players buy them, but that's like the exception rather than the rule. Do you know what I mean? I can't tell you. I go to an open jam. I see all kinds of guitars. I see, and one guy plays a Les Paul recording, and he has a PRS as well, and it's a core model, nothing fancy about it. And same thing with the which now is getting into like extreme expensive territory, core model, but Les Paul recording, it's like a $7,000 guitar, but he's had it since it was new, so he didn't pay that. We think of that as an expensive guitar, and it's a collector item, but for sure, but that's not what he paid for it, And I do run into every once in a while someone's got like a custom shop telly or something, and you're like, okay, makes sense. Guy's only got 2 guitars. I know one guy, he's got like 40 guitars. Found out he works at Guitar Center, so he's getting stuff. Like this guy has, I won't say his name. I don't want to dox anyone, but he has like the entire set of Supro amps. You know what I mean? Like the line they came out with, like he's got all the original ones that came out when the line debuted. It's like, why do you need all of them? But he's got them, Anyway, so next topic, and this is when I started spraying on Jim. So we'll have some different ideas about this, I'm sure. But